Right, cock of the month for May written. It can only be Eric Trump because he claimed that the Democrats invented a coronavirus hoax to stop his dad being elected. Oh, for God's sake, what now? What the fuck? Dominic Cummings has broken lockdown rules 8 weeks ago and it's only now just come to light. Oh, for crying out loud. Back to the drawing board. What's up everybody, I'm Mr. G and it's the start of June, which means it's now my time to look back at the previous month's biggest cock, and there can only be one particular person that come to the surface this month with all the stuff going on, and that's Boris Johnson's chief advisor Dominic Cummings. Back at the end of March, Boris Johnson was declared to have coronavirus along with his health secretary Matt Hancock. 2 days later, after this event, Downing Street declared that his chief advisor, Dominic Cummings, had also caught COVID-19 and was self-isolating. Apparently though, he wasn't self-isolating in London, which was where he was supposed to be. Oh no, he was self-isolating in Durham of all places. Can someone remind me of the rules that we are supposed to adhere to?
You must stay at home, because the critical thing we must do to stop the disease spreading between households. That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes. Shopping for basic necessities as infrequently as possible. One form of exercise a day, for example, a run, walk or cycle, alone or with members of your household. Any medical need to provide care or to help a vulnerable person, and travelling to and from work, but only where this is absolutely necessary and cannot be done from home. That's all.
Oh, so no trips to Durham then? So how come Dominic Cummings didn't follow those guidelines? Is it a case of one rule for them and one rule for us? Whilst Cummings was self-isolating with his family, it came to light that he was doing so 250 miles at his parents' place in Durham. Now this pissed a lot of people off because the government guidelines was you were not allowed to visit other family members outside your household. Since the news broke, there were calls for Cummings to resign, but Johnson wasn't prepared to throw his chief advisor to the wolves. Even the other big ministers closed ranks on this, such as Hancock and Rabb. Of course, people weren't prepared to let this go, and Cummings was forced to make a statement to the press on his side of the story as how he sees it. Here are a couple of highlights from it.
I thought the best thing to do in all the circumstances was to drive to an isolated cottage on my father's farm. At this farm, my parents live in one house, my sister and her 2 children live in another house, and there is a separate cottage roughly 50 metres away from either of them. My tentative conclusion on the Friday evening was this.
What? So you drove 250 miles looking for childcare for your son, but you still self-isolated on your own? So what was the point of travelling 250 miles in the first place? Wouldn't you have been better off in London?
I did not ask the Prime Minister about this decision. He was ill himself and he had huge problems to deal with.
Maybe you should have asked your boss first. I mean, if I buggered off to Durham without speaking to my boss first, I think he certainly would be pissed off with me.
So I drove the 3 of us up to Durham that night, arriving roughly at midnight. I did not stop on the way. When I woke the next morning, Saturday the 28th of March, I was in pain and clearly had COVID symptoms, including a bad headache and a serious fever.
So that means surely you were putting your family at risk, because they were in a car with you for several hours whilst you had the virus in your body. You also say that you didn't stop for petrol along the way. So that means you had a full tank of petrol before you started out. So at what point before the journey had you filled up?
Clearly I could not return to work anytime soon. For a day or two we were both ill. I was in bed, my wife was ill, but not ill enough that she needed emergency help. I got worse, she got better. During the night of Thursday the 2nd of April, my child woke up. He threw up and had a bad fever. He was very distressed. We took medical advice, which was to call 999. An ambulance was sent. They assessed my child and said he must go to hospital.
Wouldn't it have been better to have been in London, as an ambulance would have got to you faster and you would have got to a nearer hospital? Just saying. Anyway, it went on for quite some time, but one point that did come up was his trip to Barnum Castle and his drive there to test his eyesight out.
My wife was very worried, particularly given my eyesight had seemed to have been affected by the disease. She did not want to risk a nearly 300-mile drive with our child, given how ill I had been. We agreed that we should go for a short drive to see if I could drive safely. We drove for roughly half an hour and ended up on the outskirts of Barnum Castle town. We did not visit the castle, we did not walk around the town. We parked by a river. My wife and I discussed the situation. We agreed that I could drive safely, we should turn around and go home.
I'm sorry, but you took a drive to test your eyesight out. Surely it's illegal to drive under government guidelines if you believe your vision is impaired. So is this going to be the new eye test these days? Take a trip to Durham Castle, and if you make that drive safely, your right sight's fine. Now apparently he got clearance from medical advice saying that he could drive. So why did he need to take that short trip to a beauty spot? Why didn't he just drive back down to London? Or was it just a mere coincidence that it was his wife's birthday on the day that he was taking his test drive? I think the excuse "I was testing my eyesight" will go up there along with the classics such as "I can't sweat" and "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." What's interesting is his wife's account never ever mentions their trip to Durham while she was writing for The Spectator. Is that because you were pretending that you were self-isolating in London? I recently come across a tweet from Katie Lindemann regarding Cummings and him saying there was no local aid and that's why he had to take a trip to Durham. Cummings lives 5 minutes from me. We have a marvellous Islington COVID-19 mutual aid group with a network of volunteers to help support those self-isolating, to bring food and medicine to anyone who can't leave their home. Our community would have helped him. He wouldn't help us. Basically, it all boils down to this. Even if he was telling the truth, he made 2 massive errors of judgment. He shouldn't have gone, and as he did, he should have approached the media and made a press conference a lot earlier than he did. Why did he wait so long? Why was this kept from the public for 8 weeks or so before the story broke? Should a person who made 2 massive errors of judgment be in his job? No. For these reasons, this is why Cummings should resign, and the longer he stays, the longer it damages the government's message for staying at home. So this is why I've made Dominic Cummings May's Cock of the Month, which means it's time for the jingle. So what do you think to it all? Do you think Dominic Cummings should be sacked? Or do you think he was justified driving 250 miles to his parents' place in Durham? I would love to hear from you in the comment section. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. If you didn't, there's a dislike button. Leave a comment in the comment section. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Take care, and I will see you all soon. Bye for now.